Today we're going to talk about the flat Earth map, or the lack of one. Roll the intro. The flat Earth map. It's something that drives flat Earthers crazy. I've been arguing the fact that there should be one on online forums and Facebook groups and YouTube comments for years. And I get a lot of responses from the science-denying globe deniers. To the point like, well, all maps are flat, as if that actually means anything. Of course, the implication being that all maps are flat because the Earth is flat, which is stupid because those flat maps are based on a globe. Absolutely based on a globe. You don't find navigational charts based on flat Earth. No, they're based on a globe. The navigational charts my submarine used when I was in the Navy, based on a globe. And by the way, as a little side note, when we went to periscope depth in the middle Atlantic Ocean, 1,500 miles from any land in the mid-1980s, to get our GPS satellite fix on our position to ensure we're where we think we need to be, just think about that. No cell towers anywhere, 1,500 miles from land in the mid-1980s. Anyway, and if you want to know if those charts are accurate, all those navigation charts, talk to Flat Earth Hero and his little challenge and his discussions with MCToon and, in particular, Wolfie 6020. So, in fact, if you really want to know about navigation charts, go to Wolfie 6020's channel. He's got a lot of really good informational videos on how they work and how they're created. And it is all information that is independently verifiable. In other words, you can verify everything he says. Even if you don't work on Google, you can go down to a decent library near you and find the information, be able to verify that it's all true. So those charts are certainly not based on flat Earth. They're all based on a globe. The other thing I hear a lot as a response when I ask about a flat Earth map is I get shown something like the UN logo. Sometimes even a picture of Kennedy on Air Force One, and in the background is an AE map centered on Washington, D.C. But those are azimuthal equidistant projections of the globe. Now, let's see the other AE map I see a lot. It's the Gleasons. That's probably the number one thing people claim is the flat Earth map. As a matter of fact, they use the Gleasons. That whole thing where they talk about flight paths prove the Earth is flat because the Gleasons map. They're literally using a globe projection to prove the globe isn't real. And so that's an issue. And even you have to wonder then, why is Gleason's a flat Earth map? Because Gleason himself, when he patented it, said it was a distortion of the globe. And there'll be a link to that patent in the description. Yes, he called it a globe. So why do they believe it's a flat Earth map? Well, that's because in his book, he actually had a foldout in the first edition of that map and said, this is the New World flat map of the Earth. He said, this is it. And he even references it in the second edition of the book, which is a lot longer, but he removed the map. Why? I don't know. Who knows? So, but what's wrong with using that map as a flat Earth map? Well, here's why. Okay, here is a Gleason's map with some locations marked on it. One, Brisbane, Australia, Punta Arenas in Argentina, and Sedgefield, South Africa. So I plotted the distance between those points. I also plotted the distance from the North Pole to each of those points. For instance, let's look at Brisbane to Sedgefield, 13,640 kilometers. Yet, from Brisbane to the North Pole is 13,062 kilometers. But yet, this is a much longer line than this one is. And if we go from Brisbane to Punta Arenas, this distance is, I hope I pronounced that right, 7,146 kilometers. Look how much longer that distance is than this one, which is just under 2 times the length. Then you have the distance from Punta Arenas to Sedgefield, 6,950 kilometers, yet Punta Arenas is 15,919 kilometers from the North Pole. Clearly, these distances do not work. All these distances, by the way, are verifiable. You can calculate them yourself. You can get them off of standard navigation charts. There are sites that will allow you to figure out what flight distances are from point to point anywhere on the planet. So go ahead and do that. So as you can see, the distances in the Southern Hemisphere become very, very huge, prohibitively huge. And I point this out to science-denying globe deniers all the time. And their usual response is, well, how do you know that those are right? How do you know those distances are correct? You don't know. You didn't measure them. You haven't gone there. You have no idea. Well, yeah, I do. We know the distances between any 2 points on the surface of the Earth, regardless of what you think the shape of the Earth is. Whether it's a globe, it's flat, it's concave, it's fucking hollow, it doesn't matter. We know those distances because we travel them all the time. And it's also like the cornerstone of our economy on this planet. Because what winds up happening is you got all these shipping companies, container ships, huge ones. They have to know those distances because they need to know how much fuel to bring on board. And let me tell you, they don't have a lot of margin in that. They only bring on as much fuel as they need for a given trip. Why? 1, because fuel's expensive. 2, because fuel has weight, and that's weight that they can use for cargo. Cruise ships, same thing. You want to go on a cruise? They charge you amount of money because they know how far they have to travel, how much fuel they have to use, how long it's going to take to get there. They take all that into account when they create your trip ticket and tell you how much money to pay them. And by the way, as a little side note, did you know that you could take a cruise to Antarctica in December, January time frame, kick back on your balcony with a nice drink in your hand and just watch 24 hours of sunlight? Just saying. Airlines, same thing. They got to know how far they can travel on a given amount of fuel and what planes they need to use to travel those distances. So, and everybody knows how far it is to drive from point A to point B, even, drive cross country. How many people have driven cross country? Quite a few. Across any country in the world, quite a few. So we know what the distances are. So to tell you as an argument that, oh, you don't know what those distances are is nothing but an intellectually dishonest cop-out. So if the AE map is not the flat Earth map, and there are actually science-denying globe deniers who actually agree that the Gleasons is not the flat Earth map. It's the only thing that I've found that I've agreed with Nathan Oakley, because that's one of the things that he says. So why isn't there a flat Earth map, right? I mean, you have all this evidence that you think is for a flat Earth, that all these science denying globe deniers think is for a flat Earth. Well, can't you use that to create your flat Earth map? Turns out no. Why? Because even science denying globe deniers admit they don't have a model, just like this.
We don't need to prove anything. We don't need to make a model. We don't need to make any assertions that you'll then trap us on, because you know that we can't prove anything because we've got a P900 and a compass. It's just disproportionately unrealistic to argue that we should have a model. How should we have a model? There's no science for a flat Earth. All of the science is all based around this bullshit nonsense of heliocentrism.
Now, that's kind of an interesting statement from him because, in order to claim the Earth is flat, you have to have evidence for it. And if you have evidence, you have the basis for a model. But if you don't have that model, then you don't have the evidence, so you can't make the claim. But it's a situation, another intellectually dishonest piece of crap situation, where Riley is blaming everyone else for the lack of a flat Earth model to base a map on. Now, this discussion that he had nothing really to do with a flat Earth map, but you would need that model to do that. I recently heard an even stupider reason for why there's no flat Earth map. Listen to this.
There is no flat Earth map because no cartographer seems to ever want to make it. They make every single thing they can make. They'll make the Earth flat, and they'll always be starting off with a globe, and they'll do a flat projection off of a globe because they need to have flat, and they'll know where the distortions are, and by doing all this they can then make it back into a globe. But none of them actually have ever made a flat Earth map.
Well, there you have it. One of the stupidest things ever to come out of the mouth of a science denying globe denier. Brian's logic is literally blaming the lack of a flat Earth map on cartographers. Yes, that's what he said. Why is that stupid? Because if the Earth were actually flat, you wouldn't need to be a cartographer. You wouldn't need any sort of special education. A high school level geometry math levels would be enough to be able to do the flat Earth map, because it would simply be the straight line distance between any 2 points. And it's really an oversized floor plan. It would literally be a trivial exercise. Yet since, even from Robotham, every attempt that's been, 160, 170 years, every attempt has failed, has been an abject failure. And not for lack of trying. I mean, Antonio Subarat's had one a couple of years ago. Orphan Red featured it on one of her videos. Remember her? Yeah, Mensa girl. I love it. So it should be that simple. And you should have a flat Earth map that has correct distances. And I'm not talking about, a map of a country or, a flight chart or a navigation. I'm talking about a map of the entire surface of the Earth. Kind of like this. Now, you could take one of these globes, and I'm not talking about a little globe that you buy in the home decor section of Walmart. I'm talking about an actual educational globe. Because on those globes, usually in the Pacific Ocean, don't know why, there's a legend that tells you distances. So you can measure from any 2 points anywhere on this globe and calculate a distance, and it'll match reality. And like I said, we know those distances. They're not in dispute. And the fact that all those distances in reality match this globe should tell you something. And the fact that science denying globe deniers can't come up with a working flat Earth map should also tell you something. What it tells you is that it is literally impossible for the Earth to be flat. Because, like I said, it would be a trivial exercise to create one. And it would be a smoking gun, too. Because if you had that flat Earth map that you could hold up and say, here it is, this is the map of the flat Earth and all the distances work, that would be your smoking gun that the Earth could be flat. And the fact that nobody's done that is the evidence that the Earth is not flat. That's all I got. I'm Mike. I'll talk to you next time.